It's Friday, it's the weekend, and there's no West Ham. Now, usually I'd be feeling a bit down about that and feeling like, oh, another international break. I do moan about them a hell of a lot, but I've got to be honest. Feeling pretty relieved about it. I'm quite looking forward to a weekend without having to worry about West Ham playing with the way this season's been going. So I don't know about you, not really looking forward to that Newcastle game. Monday night as well. Bloody hell, which is ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, who moved that game to a Monday night? I mean, crying out loud. Really poor. And then obviously followed by Arsenal. I mean, their games I'm just absolutely dreading. I'm going to be honest. I think we're going to get ripped to shreds the way we've been playing this season. Before going to the video, though, if you're new, please do subscribe to the channel. Or unless you're not a subscriber, do subscribe. It does help us out. And, of course, hit that like button as well. It really does help the channel out and helps us to grow. I want to talk about a couple of things about West Ham today in terms of managerial front again. It's something we're talking about a lot, and I'm trying to avoid it, but it's hard not to because it's the main talking point, and it seems to be moving quite a bit, and with whatever you're reading. But I'll tell you what, it's a word I want to bring up is indecision. I talked about this. I used this word a lot last season. I've used it a lot, actually, quite a fair bit, and I used it in terms of the club. Especially last season with David Moyes' contract, where we just seem to have this situation being kicking the can down the road, reluctant to make any kind of decision of what they were going to do. Let's wait until then. Let's wait until then. And of course, we've had this summer sort of freshen up. We've had a lot of new incoming players. We've got a new head coach coming in and working alongside Tim Steidten. It felt like an opportunity to reset. So it shouldn't, hopefully, we weren't hoping to be in this kind of position that we are. I mean, it's dire, isn't it? Let's be honest. And once again, that indecision from West Ham, that nature of how we operate is just coming back to the forefront, isn't it? Just a lack of proactiveness. I don't understand what it is with this football club and the ownership where they are so reluctant to make a decision. And it's not just throughout managerial stuff. I'm talking, it goes on pretty much every layer of this club. You've got to look at the stadium, exactly the same with that. We want to get a deal done for the stadium. Well, what are we doing about it? Oh, we're not quite. That's dragging on and on and on. Player recruitment's very similar. It just feels like it's always an ongoing issue with this club that we struggle to make decisions. And when there's a problem, it's like we'd rather wait and wait and wait. It's almost like they want it to be a disaster where they've got no other choice but to make a decision. You know what I mean? They've got to make that call. And it does feel like we're getting that now with Lopetegui, where the club are... let's be honest, right? It's evident that this guy is not the right guy for this club. It's so evident now. We've been here. His guy has been in charge now. I know people will say, well, it's still very early in his reign. The guy's played, 13 competitive games? 13 matches, not including the cup games and that. And I think they should be included, the 2 cup games we've played. That's 13 competitive games and a full pre-season. And all of it has been horrendous. Let's get it right. Horrendous. Like there's barely been anything positive come out of this. The wins that we've got have been lucky. The only time I would say that we've come to looked okay was Ipswich, and that was only really because Ipswich got their tactics so wrong against Lopetegui. He just sat off. Kind of played how Everton played, actually. Sat up, but again, we were unable in that instance to break Everton down. And let's be honest, we were, although we did oppose and we had a couple of chances, Everton also had their chances right in the first half as well. It's just not comfortable viewing at the moment with West Ham. It really isn't, and it just feels inevitable that a decision will be made on Lopetegui and they will release him from the job. They will get rid of him and they will bring in somebody else. I don't know why, though, we have to keep waiting. This is the perfect opportunity. These 2 weeks were the perfect time for them to come to go, look, hold our hands up and say, look, this hasn't worked out, and then make that decision. Get someone new in, freshen it up, give everyone a bit of a lift, and then go for the second part, not the second part of the season, but you understand what I mean, ahead of the Christmas period, which is thick and fast games. It's a really busy schedule over Christmas, typically very tough. I just feel like now we are leaving the new guy when they eventually do come in, probably in if they do come in after, let's say, I'm guessing it's going to be after the Newcastle and Arsenal game. That's my gut feeling, because from what we're hearing, in terms of what Lopetegui needs to do, he needs to be getting a win out of those games. They're expecting for at least 3 points or maybe a couple of draws. So we're going to get that against these teams. So if he's got to get, if basically what I'm saying is they're saying that a draw will not be enough. If those 2 fixtures, a draw, 1 point out of those 2 games won't be enough. So it suggests then he's got to at least beat Newcastle, or he's got to draw with Newcastle and then draw against Arsenal. He's not going to do that. That is not going to happen. I'm not saying it's impossible. I mean, it's not impossible. Of course, it's possible we win both games. It's football. You could do it, but let's be frank. We're not going to go to Newcastle and get 3 points, and we're certainly not going to be beating Arsenal. They're going to tear us to bits. If we play anything like we have been this season, I just cannot see anything other than hammerings. I really can't. I'm looking. I mean, maybe I'm just in such a deflated mood when it comes to West Ham that's all I'm seeing at the moment. It's just I'm feeling so negative about it that I'm getting caught up in that sort of hysteria. I don't know, but I cannot see. I mean, this is not like I'm reacting to anything. It's just happened. I've been thinking about this, and I can't see anything other than a defeat to Newcastle, and I can't see anything other than a pretty heavy defeat, no doubt, to Arsenal. I just don't see anything at the moment that suggests otherwise. So it frustrates me that the club are once again willing to sit back and wait. And then, so what happens then? That we lose to Newcastle, which I think is more than likely. I cannot see West Ham going to St James's Park and getting a result. I might be wrong. Look, I hope I bloody am. I hope West Ham beat Newcastle and beat Arsenal. Of course I do. I just don't see it happening. And the thing is, if they lose to Newcastle away, which is most likely, and we then lose to Arsenal, which is very highly likely, and then they pull the trigger, they've then got to panic and get this guy in. He's got to have no time at all. He's then got to hit the ground running. He has no time to work with his players in this 2-week window that we've got. It's so poor. It's so poor. And it just reminds me again of the decision makers at this football club, who we've got in charge, because it's exactly what I was saying before last season in terms of Moyes. Just this indecision all the time. They can't make a call on anything. We have to just wait and wait and wait and wait. It's ridiculous. It really is, and really poor. And also that ball. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's now been reported that there is no meeting between David Sullivan and Tim Steidten to discuss Lopetegui. Why? Why are we not talking about this? Why are the club ownership not meeting to discuss the situation? Why are we just sitting back and allowing this to happen? As I say, it always feels like they have to wait for a complete disaster before they go, oh, we better sort this out now. We could have just sorted this out now. I mean, I always refer back to Aston Villa with this. People watch this channel know I refer to this quite a bit with how they dealt with their managerial appointments. You know, they brought in Steven Gerrard before they brought in Emery. They went in the summer. They got him from Rangers. He just won the league with Rangers. They paid the compensation. They went and paid the money to get the manager they wanted. They felt that Steven Gerrard was the right option. They brought him in. They realised very early on he was not the right guy for this job, and they sacked him. And not only did they sack him, they then went and paid more compensation. Obviously paid him off, and then paid more compensation to go and get Emery. And now they're in the Champions League and doing well, and fair play to them, and good luck to them. I'm envious of it. Because that's the kind of proactiveness I want to see from West Ham, that ruthlessness. We want this success and we're going to get it. And if you're not the right guy for us, we're going to get rid of you and move you on. Why are you being loyal? They keep hearing, that's what I heard about, this loyalty. They want to be loyal to the manager. Why are you being loyal to Lopetegui? You don't even really know the guy. He's been at the job for what we're talking. He came in. He was appointed in May, which was 6 months ago. And then he was sort of officially started in July. But this is the guy that we talked about, bloody man, watching West Ham from afar for a year. I mean, Christ knows what he was watching. But why loyalty? Why have we got to have this loyalty towards a guy that's done nothing for this football club other than look like he's dragging us into a relegation battle? I don't get it. I don't think it's anything to do with loyalty. I think it's to do with incompetence and a reluctance to spend money. It's cheap, as usual, from our ownership. That's just that we don't want to spend money. And we're going to do everything we can not to. And it really winds me up. But having said that, we're going to spend £27 million on an injury-prone German striker. Make it make sense. So it turns out they're not having this meeting. That's what it's come about between David Sullivan and Tim Steidten. They're not going to meet to discuss it. I think that's really ridiculous. I can't get over the fact that this club are willing just to sit back and do nothing at the moment. As I say, it just feels like inevitable anyway that he will go. It also is becoming quite apparent, actually, that Edin Terzic is looking the most likely now to be the replacement for Lopetegui should he go. Edin Terzic is rumoured to be in the UK. He wants to come to the Premier League. Don't forget, he works in the Premier League at West Ham with Slaven Bilic. He knows the club. The club like him. He's also out of work. It ticks a lot of boxes in terms of a West Ham point of view. But there is a reluctance from a fair few fans. I do kind of get it. I think it's to do with the style of football. People are a little bit concerned that we might be going for another defensive style manager. So I can understand that kind of reluctance to it. I'm not in that bracket, actually. I don't feel a reluctance to have him in the club. And the reason being, I'll tell you why. I recommend you watch this. If you watch this video, after you've watched this, go and search for Edin Terzic. I think it's called Masterclass. I think there's 2 videos. I think it's in a 2-parter on YouTube. It's about, the whole thing's about 45 minutes long, something like that. And he's talking about the tactics used when he was playing PSG and the mindset used. He just comes across really well. Like, he really knows what he's talking about. It comes across very assured and confident in what he's saying. I remember, I think it was Arne Slot was talking to Sky Sports. I think if I remember rightly, they'd beaten Manchester United. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. That they beat Man United, and I think after the game they brought him over, and he just analysed the game so well. Slot, it was so detailed, and you could just see he knew how to beat these sides, and he had a complete game plan of how he was going to do it, and he just spoke so well. It kind of reminded me of that with Terzic on that video. I highly recommend you go and watch it. It certainly has made me feel more assured that he would be a good manager for West Ham, because he's not typically just a defensive side manager. He's not David Moyes who's just going to put like 10 men behind the ball and try and nick a game against a Burnley. I don't believe you'd get that with him. I feel like he is very pragmatic. He wants to play on the front foot. However, he is very careful. He wants to protect his goal as well. And look, the way things are going this season, I'm not averse to that. We're getting battered, far too often. We're far too easy to beat. We're getting, I'm sorry, but that's how I feel about these next 2 games. I think we're going to be massively exposed against teams that are play a high press, play with high energy, have got pace. I mean, Arsenal in particular, I'm just dreading it. I really am. I don't know how West Ham are going to manage to cope with it, because we're getting ripped apart by teams that are bang average in terms of attacking. I won't say bang average, a bit harsh, but teams that aren't necessarily prolific, let's say, in goals, and they're just tearing us to shreds. So teams that can score goals like an Arsenal side, all right, they might not be quite on the front foot at the moment this season, but let's be honest, they've got the quality to do it. I'm very fearful. So actually, I'm watching the Terzic, and I actually think he would be a wiser appointment. Not to say that that's the man for me and no one else, but I wouldn't be disappointed. I've got to be honest. And it looks as though he's going to be the front runner for the role. He's also turned down a move to Roma because he wants to be in the UK. It just feels like this is what it's shaping up to be. He's also, of course, got the German connection with Steidson and stuff. It seems to tick a lot of boxes, I think, for West Ham. But why are we waiting? What are we waiting for? What are West Ham waiting for? What do they honestly think is going to happen here? Do they really honestly believe, these owners, do they honestly believe that we're going to go to St James's Park on a Monday night and win and then go and get a result against Arsenal? I mean, honestly, do they honestly really believe that? Because it's delusion. If that is just pie in the sky, wishful nonsense, as far as I'm concerned. And let's be honest, it's not just about results. It's not just about points, which unfortunately seems to be the big factor all the time when it comes to David Sullivan and his decision making. It's all based on points. A point in these 2 games won't be enough. What about the players? What about the clear discontentment we're seeing from these players? You've only got to look at the last game we played, Everton. 3 players coming off subbed. It was Antonio, Wan-Bissaka, and Rodriguez. I mean, all 3 of them clearly angry. And you could argue, it might be because they're angry because of the performance. He was kicking bottles and stuff. It's just disrespectful. It shows that there's a real lack of respect for Lopetegui because they don't want to be there. They don't want this guy in charge. It's so obvious. It's really frustrating. And it feels like we are once again kicking the can down the road. But by all accounts, and by looking at what, reading between the lines of how things are at the moment, it does appear that Terzic, should Lopetegui go, is the front runner to be our new head coach. Come on, you ones.